Welcome to our Fireside chat, guys. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let's jump in with a couple questions here. So there was a great blog article on boisestartupweek.org last year. And Megan, we had interviewed you after your triumphant win, guys, that you had at the 2018 pitch competition. I would recommend people to read that blog if they haven't read it already. It's on boisestartupweek.org in our media section. But for those who haven't heard how you got started, tell us about the Lumineye origin story.
Sure. So we actually came out of Boise State's Hacking for Defense program in spring 2017. So just to give you a little bit of background on Hacking for Defense, that is a program that brings student teams together with the Department of Defense to solve national security problems. And so we were partnered through that program. Actually, Corey helped start it at Boise State, and we were partnered with Special Operations Command to identify their need of identifying people using radio frequencies. So the point of the class wasn't to start a company, but we were really passionate about solving the problem. I have two brothers in the Army, and then you can.
So actually, when I first learned about the problem down at the educators course, they talked about the blind breach problem of just not knowing what's on the other side of a wall or a door when they know they need to go in there. And that hit home with me because my uncle is a detective, and his partner's actually killed in a blind breach situation. And so I was like, I want to help solve this problem. So I brought the program back to Boise State, pitched it to the dean, got everything approved, and started recruiting. And that's where I found Megan, and we went through the class.
Yeah. And so, as I mentioned, we weren't, I guess, like 100% planning on starting a company out of it. But we started talking to the users, and then we started talking to first responders like firefighters, search and rescue, law enforcement. And we just realized how much of a situational awareness problem this was, and that there wasn't really a solution out there that was meeting needs from like a tactical, compact form factor to, expense it, the budget basically of the law enforcement and fire. And so we decided to start the company together, and then started with our third co-founder, Rob. So
He's my college roommate. So yeah.
It's good to have a strong network. And sometimes that's the way it happens. You got a good roommate. You got lucky.
Yeah.
So I wanted to turn to the elephant in the room, the pandemic. It's affecting everybody. Mm-hmm. How are you and your team doing during the pandemic?
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that, it was odd to see us in the same room. We started out fully remote. The big thing for us was like less travel at first. We were traveling so much before this, just to travel with users, testing events. It is hard to demo through wall sensing remotely. So we were traveling a lot. So we ended up going full remote, less travel, and then realized that, it's hard to build hardware remotely. And so we got a bigger office where we can socially distance, but still get everything we need to get done. And then we've also gotten a lot better at remote demoing through wall sensing.
Yeah.
How do you demo a remote wall sensing?
So there are, so we tend to use like Microsoft Teams and stuff. So we have to get set up with the chat, and then we have to have like multiple camera feeds and device feeds. It's kind of like a live production that we have to set up to be able to show them very clearly like what the device is showing, show them where the radars are, show them where the person on the other side of the wall is moving, and being able to show them all of that simultaneously. So it's takes like the whole team to kind of be able to demo it properly. So.
Yeah, I think we need 4 camera feeds simultaneously.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is quite the event.
Yeah, but it works, right? You find a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I'm wondering, you talked about going around the country and testing with people. And one of the things after you came back from Y Combinator, summer 2019, you came back and you said in our blog article that, the next steps were to invest in, grow the business, obviously, and also invest in more testing. So how did that go? And what's next for that in 2021?
Yeah. It went pretty well. I mean, we tested with a wide variety of users and a wide variety of use cases, everything from like search and rescue, like rubble piles, to like larger buildings in major cities, to residential structures. And I really think it helped us hone in on the product.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot of things that we've been working on refining and making it better to scale it. There are a number of things early on that you build it one way and then realize, oh, wait, if we want to be able to scale that up, we need to be able to kind of re-engineer things. So just good to get through all those in the past year. COVID actually allowed us to heads down focus in on that stuff. So that's actually been a benefit to just be able to focus on that rather than having to travel around quite as much. We were able to do that earlier. And gained a lot of feedback, and then we were able to be heads down focused. And then coming into this next year, hopefully we can get everything figured out with COVID, and then we can start doing more business around the country.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of rubble piles and residential structures, I wanted to take this into a sort of a nerd direction, if you will. This is the tech track. So wanted to dig in a little bit more about your technology. So how do you, I mean, one of the things I did is I looked on your website, I looked at you have the demo video, which is you're demoing the sensor and you're holding it up against a wall, and it has the side-by-side view of sort of what you see versus what the interface sees. And I thought it was beautifully simple. And I wondered if you could speak to that simplicity. Why is it so simple? And I have some follow-up questions for you, but maybe start with, tell us more about the technology that's powering that and how you made that interface so simple.
So it kind of goes back to one of the things we heard when we were first investigating the problem set was that current devices that first responders and the Department of Defense use, they're pretty bulky a lot of the times. Like they give you a lot of information, which is good in some cases, but I mean, you're talking about a situation where there's literally someone trapped in a rubble pile. Like there's literally a hostage rescue situation like happening, 50 feet in front of you. And you don't always have that time to interpret data. And so we focused a lot on like, what can we give the users that they can use immediately, that we can get to them as fast as possible so that they can help make a smart decision. And that was just something we heard from them over and over, is that they don't have time to think and interpret data.
That was a big thing from all the users. Just very often and even some of our initial things were a little bit too complex for them but that's like where you're starting from. And so you have to build that bridge to the user and really make them a part of the feedback loop. So it just becomes very intuitive, and they don't have to think about processing the data. They just use it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tech specialists on a lot of these teams, where they're trained on a certain system. Like we wanted to make a device that you wouldn't need to be the tech specialist to use if you needed to use it. And so we do have advanced feature sets, if you want to really nerd out, and become an expert with the device, but you don't have to be an expert to use the basic feature set. Yeah.
It takes more compute and more engineering to be able to make something really simple.
Yeah, it's harder for us.
Well, it's harder for everyone.
Yeah, very common problem. You made it look easy. Yes. How is it so what are you detecting then? If we can dig into the actual radar technology, like for example, a rubble pile or a building with multiple rooms in it. How do you, I'm envisioning, okay, I have this device, I'm putting it on a door, and it's a core door, but it's a building with 3 rooms in it. How does the radar, which is, to me, it's like, okay, you're bouncing the waves off of an object and it's coming back at you. How can you actually see through the walls?
Yeah, so there's a lot going on with that. As far as the raw signals that you're getting back have a lot of information in them. And so really honing that down to what exactly you're looking for is part of the challenge. And so that's where there's quite a bit of historical research on that been done out there. But then there's a lot of stuff that we've been able to do differently that just we didn't grow up knowing all the radar stuff. None of us were radar engineers going into this. We've learned a lot from radar experts and everything else who have helped mentor us through everything. But it's also given us a different perspective coming into it. We've been able to actually develop some pretty interesting algorithms that are not like the traditional radar processing algorithms. And so that's been able to help us identify people and potential threats a lot easier, and then also be able to translate that into a simpler user interface.
To what extent in the algorithm is machine learning playing a part in that?
So there are a variety of points throughout it. Not everything is machine learning based. A lot of analytical solutions, not just machine learning. There is a number of different machine learning applications out there. As long as you start to go in more deep learning and all that kind of stuff, it can be harder to pick out exactly how things are occurring in different ways. So we tend to use a variety of algorithms throughout, not just that.
Got it. Are there specific data sets or things where you find the machine learning is better or worse at solving those problems? Like, where is it a good application and where is it not? Where's
machine learning? Well, for the Department of Defense, it's always really useful to have analytical ways to solve things because they don't always want to use that in all scenarios. So we tend to use those at the base, I guess, and then like you can supplement if you need more information. That would be where you'd use machine learning.
So when you say analytical, are you talking about people, humans analyzing situational awareness and making decisions? Or do you mean that software is doing some analytics?
So machine learning is a subset of mathematics. So there's a lot of mathematics that we can apply and solve a problem with without having to use machine learning. And so that's what we're referring to when we talk about that.
Great. So I'm going to ask you this question. Obviously, law enforcement's been in the news a lot lately, and I wanted to know your take on how the Lumineye tools are helping both law enforcement and the communities that they serve.
Yeah, for sure. This is something we think about a lot. We are really focused on de-escalation. So a lot of times decisions are made based on the information that, like a law enforcement officer or a firefighter, whatever type of first responder has. And there's only so much information you can gain outside of a structure. And so we try and provide them with as much information as possible so they can make better decisions for both their safety and then the person on the other side of the door's safety. And so that's pretty much our primary focus in that market. We also record our radar scans so that, like a body camera, there's a ground truth to a situation. So depending on what happens, that can be reviewed and evaluated as well. So that's something we've also built into the solution.
And how is it that, to what extent are first responders and law enforcement organizations, are they asking for this from you in terms of, has it caused, what sort of conversations are you having? How is it changing the conversation, I guess? Exactly.
That's always been, I would say, like a question we got a lot in the beginning, and we've worked it a lot into our solution, is just like, what different scenarios do you use this in? Like having, because, you don't want to cause any issues with like officers like scanning houses that they're not supposed to. And so we're building a lot of that legality into the system where you have to record kind of what situation you're using it in. And that also
locking down the data.
That's really important for us, and only giving them the data in the situations that are appropriate to do it. And they actually ask for that. That's what they want, because they want to make sure that they're, like going by the book and doing what's best for the community. And so we definitely field a lot of questions in that area.
Yeah, that's really helpful to know. I want to turn again to sort of the future state. So I'm picturing, just seeing you guys together in the room, in your safe pod, almost reminds me of the before times where we could travel around the country. We could do user testing, right? Be hands-on. After this is all over, when we're able to get on airplanes and do things like that again, the next sort of 3 to 5 years as entrepreneurs, my question is this: talk to me about what your vision is. So you've spent a lot of time developing these products now. What is your vision for this solution set now? And then also beyond that, what other exciting projects are you looking forward to solving?
Yeah, so, I had some ideas on things that we wanted to solve outside of the solution here, but I would say like our big thing with our devices is that, we can provide that de-escalation and that extra situational awareness and have that
giving people more time to make decisions. So rash decisions aren't made.
Yeah, so that's our goal with this technology, and I would say also making that accessible to a larger subset of users than it has been available to in the past, like the firefighters and search and rescue teams that don't have very large budgets where they can afford all the fancy new tech. We want everyone to have access to this. And then as far as other big issues, I mean, one I'm really passionate about that, is climate change. And so just definitely always want to be thinking about that. And then you had mentioned too, cybersecurity and just the importance of that in our product, but also just generally speaking.
Yeah. So a number of our employees, including myself, have background in cybersecurity and really care about, both of us were researching differential privacy, specializing in that. And so we really care about how we can protect data and use data more securely, but also privately. So that's always been a big focus and passion of mine, as well as some of our employees.
Very cool, you guys. So if folks want to engage with you at Lumineye, what's the best way that they can get in touch? Either if they're seeking a job, we have a lot of folks on the video who are watching who are looking for jobs, or maybe looking for some thought partners on things. What's the best way that they should get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we have on our website, we have a contact us form that goes to us. So we're not a big team, so it's not going, out in the middle of nowhere. So we're pretty responsive on it. If they want to just go to lumineye.com and click that, and they can just send us a message.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. I think that's all the questions I had, you guys. Thank you so much for your time. It's great to see what you're doing in Boise and beyond. And I hope you stay safe during this pandemic.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.